In the first bonus episode of my podcast that went out just before the summer break, I talked about my pragmatic approach to thinking about and teaching generative AI for qualitative research. If you haven't caught that yet, it's episode 15 and it's titled What I Think of Generative AI for Qualitative Research. But I wanted here to reflect a little bit more on why I take such a pragmatic approach, both in terms of the underlying reasoning from a philosophical point of view and also what this looks like in practice. But first, what do I mean by taking a pragmatic approach? Well, basically, it's obvious to me, and it should be to all of us, that qualitative researchers are using generative AI tools. Whether me, you, or anyone else likes it or not, this is the reality. And we therefore must discuss it and teach our students how to navigate it appropriately. So I've been thinking about my underlying reasoning for taking this approach. And in the podcast episode I mentioned a moment ago, episode 15, I related it to the ethos and remit of my work at the Cactus networking project. Because of its independent awareness-raising aim, we don't promote any method or tool over any other, and that stems from the belief that different methods and tools are appropriate in different circumstances. But it's a lot more than that for me, and I've recently been thinking about how my PhD topic and the theorising I did for it very much relates to this ethos. My PhD looked at how young people growing up in the Netherlands and England learn about sex and relationships from different sources in their lives. So from formal school-based sex and relationships education, but also more informal sources such as friends, family, media, and so on. One of the differences between the two countries with respect to sex education policy has to do with the historically deep-seated societal perceptions about young people as entities and whether providing them with sexual health and contraceptive information at early ages encourages them to engage in sexual activity or enables them to act responsibly. Without going into the details in relation to the topic of sex education, it's clear to me that there are parallels with how we're dealing with generative AI in educational settings and how my personal perspective on such issues resonates deeply with the ethos of the Cactus networking project and the way that I'm responding to the qualitative AI space and navigating the teaching of it. I've written and spoken several times about my belief that it's important that methods teachers don't put their heads in the sand about qualitative AI, just like parents and school teachers must accept the reality that some young people will have sexual relations, whether we want them to or not. So methods teachers and higher education more generally must, I believe, accept the reality that some students and researchers are using generative AI for aspects of the qualitative research process. Accepting that reality doesn't mean parents or school teachers advocate or encourage their children to engage in sexual behaviour, but it does mean they have a responsibility to equip young people with the knowledge to be responsible and safe if they choose to do so. That requires educating young people about all aspects of sexual health and behaviour before they have sex, and to provide easy access to appropriate contraceptive services when they are. Similarly, accepting the reality that some students and researchers will use generative AI to facilitate their qualitative analysis doesn't mean methods teachers necessarily advocate or encourage it. But it does mean that we have a responsibility to equip our students with the appropriate frameworks and knowledge to do so responsibly. As a parent, I do my children a disservice not to equip them with the knowledge they need to navigate relationships appropriately and safely. As a teacher, I do my students a disservice not to equip them with the knowledge they need to navigate the AI space appropriately and safely. I run lots of events, many of them free, to open up discussion about these issues. Check out my Linktree for info on the next ones coming up. In the meantime, happy researching.